Forget the tourist-packed Las Ramblas and Gaudi's modernist masterpieces you know today. You're in 1700s Barcelona, and the air is thick with gunpowder and the salty sting of the Mediterranean. Listen, the crash of hammers rebuilding a city that refuses to die after siege, while the harbor buzzes with ships loaded down with brandy, printed cottons and silk. Then suddenly, the bells of Santa Maria del Mar ring out. A galleon from the Americas just pulled in. Welcome to the 18th century, a city of guilds, a resurgent trade hub, and an indomitable fortress that learned how to shine within its own walls. On
Reconstructed History,
we travel through the eras and cities that shaped our world and give them a face you can actually see. Let's kick off this journey into the past. If you were walking through 18th century Barcelona, you wouldn't be stepping into some modern, orderly city. You'd be stepping into a place squeezed tight inside its walls, where every street feels built more for survival than for living. The air has a different weight to it, a mix of wood smoke, sea salt, and that constant dampness rolling in off the Mediterranean. There's no room to spread out, so everything happens inward, upward, wherever there's space. And from the very first step, you get it. This city doesn't grow. It accumulates. It doesn't expand. It compresses. But there's something you need to understand before you take a single step. Barcelona has just come out of one of the toughest stretches in its history. After the War of the Spanish Succession in 1714, the city was defeated, occupied, and transformed. The old institutions are gone. In their place, power is imposed from the outside. Part of the city was even torn down to build a military fortress, the Ciutadella. And it's not just any fortress. It's a symbol of control, built to keep an eye on the city and crush any new rebellion. And that you don't just see it, you feel it on every street. The streets are so narrow that two carts can barely pass each other without scraping. The stone pavement is worn down from centuries of footsteps, animals and wooden wheels carving permanent grooves into the ground. The smell changes at every corner. Fish near the port, leather and dye from the workshops, piles of waste where the city's cleaning system just can't keep up. There's no modern idea of hygiene, just routine. And in that environment, people learn to move fast, dodge, and just deal with the inevitable. Because in Barcelona during this century, space isn't a luxury. It's a daily fight. Every inch is negotiated, every step is earned. But here's what really gets your attention. It's not the noise, it's not the smell, it's the constant feeling of no space. As you move toward the center, the buildings start rising unevenly, crammed together like they're fighting for every inch of air. Wealthy merchants' houses try to stand out with wrought iron balconies and nicer facades, but even they're trapped in the same density. And in between, there are the humbler homes, dark, damp, poorly ventilated, shared by whole families. The contrast isn't subtle, it's everywhere. Visible in every window, every door, every staircase that seems to go on forever. Society here is sharply divided. On one side, merchants and artisans organized into guilds, controlling most of the urban economy. On the other, a huge mass of workers, day laborers, and the urban poor living right on the edge, depending on daily work just to get by. And above them all, a rising elite getting rich from trade, marking the beginning of a transformation that will change this city forever. And holding on isn't optional, it's mandatory. But everything shifts when you get close to the port. Suddenly, the sound opens up, like the city can finally breathe. Sailors shouting, orders in different languages, ropes and wood slamming against the docks. The Mediterranean isn't just a view, it's survival. This is where wheat, wine, oil, and all the goods that keep the city moving come in. Barcelona isn't self-sufficient. It depends on the sea the way a body depends on breathing. For years, Barcelona's trade with the Americas was limited, but over the course of the 18th century, that starts to change. Little by little, the city gets integrated into the Spanish Empire's trade routes, and with that come new opportunities and a new class of merchants who will start transforming the city from the inside out. If the sea stops, so does the city. Right near the port, life gets raw. Laborers unload ships for endless hours, hauling sacks heavier than their own bodies. There's no real rest, just brief pauses between shifts that blur together into one long stretch. And yet, right in the middle of all that hardship, a kind of living economy forms. Street vendors, makeshift stalls, a constant exchange of info and goods. It's a world where everything has immediate value, where what arrives today could be gone tomorrow. A ship comes in, another leaves.
Picture it for a second. Could you live in a city where every single day is like that? If you pull away from the port and head deeper into the urban core, the city changes again. Plazas appear where people gather, not just to trade but to watch, talk, and pass along rumors. News travels by word of mouth faster than any official letter. War updates, crown decisions, tax changes. It all filters through here before it becomes official. And in that constant flow of voices, you realize something important. In 18th century Barcelona, knowing something first could be almost as valuable as money. Information is power, and it's in the air. Churches visually dominate a lot of these spaces, not just as places of faith, but as centers of symbolic power. Bells marking the rhythm of the day, rituals structuring the week, processions cutting through entire streets like the city's come to a complete stop. Religion isn't some separate part of life. It's the framework that holds everything together. Even the most everyday decisions are shaped by the sacred, by that constant sense of a higher order. Everything has a witness. Everything has a rule. When night falls, Barcelona becomes a different city. Lighting is scarce, just a few dim lanterns barely cutting through the dark. Shadows fill the narrow streets and the sound of footsteps feels louder than it does during the day. It's a time when the city doesn't disappear, but it gets more uncertain. Doors shut earlier, voices drop lower, and moving around alone can be risky. What you can't see is still there. And even so, life keeps going. In taverns and enclosed spaces, people still gather. Wine flows, stories blur with reality, and the city keeps processing its own energy. Deals are made, work is sealed, favors are traded. It's a parallel world within the same world, where candlelight creates the illusion of intimacy in a packed city. Calm here is always temporary. If you could see it from above, you'd see a city locked inside its walls, compressed like it can't expand. Tight-packed rooftops, narrow streets, smoke rising in layers, and beyond it all, the open sea. A brutal contrast between confinement and possibility. And then it hits you. It wasn't a city built for comfort. It was built to endure, and still, it never stopped moving forward. That's it for our trip into the past. Tell me, what stood out to you most from this recreation? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed stepping back in time, hit like, subscribe to Historia Reconstruida so you don't miss any trips, and click this video if you want to keep uncovering the best kept secrets of our past.